ready to stop right here.
Okay.
Okay. Welcome to the meeting of the Beaufort County Board of Education Operations Committee, September 25th, 2023. Meeting is being conducted at the District Educational Service Center in Conference Room E and remote hybrid conferencing. This meeting will be live streamed on the school board's YouTube channel. Request for public comments will be accepted between 5 and 5 p.m. and 5:30 by sending an email. We're already past that time. And the first item on the agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the next item on the agenda, approval of the agenda, Mr. Nate, would you make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda from our last board meeting.
And I will second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is the approval of the August 8th, 2023 committee meeting minutes.
So moved.
I second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Construction update. Rob, the chair is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to provide an executive construction update. In tonight's materials, there is one project with yellow traffic lights that are appearing in the monthly updates. This project is Robert Smalls International Academy. It's slides 6 through 8. Yellow traffic lights are associated with the demolition phase, and previously unidentified asbestos has now been confirmed to be present in the exterior walls. This discovery will require a new permit, as well as additional time and funding. Our project construction manager, J.E. Dunn, is preparing a change proposal request to remove this asbestos, and additional details will be available when we receive that change proposal request.
How long do you see the permitting process taking?
We're still trying to get a grasp of that amount of time, but since we already had a permit and it's just making a modification to it, we're hopeful that it can be quicker when we go back in, but we'll have that detail here in the next a week or two, maybe.
Yeah, what I'd say the delay we're talking about is 4 to 6 weeks, compared to where we were. So that's what we're talking. It's not major.
Okay,
It could be anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks. So that's
but that puts us behind in the field and everything else, so they really can't knock anything more down.
right. There's stuff, but we're still. The still potential to have everything done by spring, and that's our goal. Because it's only a 3 to 6, as long as it stays a 3 to 6 week
Yeah.
setback, we should still be able to meet that. They are still working on, they're already building the concession
So
building.
the athletics pieces that
They're
can keep moving.
continuing on building the new stuff. They actually just can't get utilities to until they demo the building. So they're doing what they can, but it is a setback, but it's not a major setback.
They can pull roofs off and
No, because that may impact.
compromise the walls.
Yeah, so nothing can really happen until on the demo side, until this gets taken care of.
I told Rob, I would suggest strongly that you have somebody go out to Ladies Adler Middle School and Hilton High School and do a forcing of the walls there to see if we're going to have the same issue.
That's a good suggestion.
That's what I thought too, and I told Colonel Geyer I'd take that away from tonight's meeting, and we'll put that into motion so that we can confirm if it's there or not.
We do have to, we do have to do some destructive, you are gonna create a hole.
Oh, yeah, but
we can patch that hole in the time.
What I would say though, it's kind of one concern here is though, like the Robert Smalls, we had, I believe, our first two came up negative. But when we did more, it came up positive, so. You do other areas of,
Yeah.
so it is kind of.
Yeah.
You don't wanna do a lot of destructive
Yeah, right.
testing.
But you gotta do some randomness so you can get a good sample.
So it's still kind of a possibility that it could be there until you can sample more areas.
In the world where they filmed it and put it in some and not the other.
I know that I don't.
I mean, that answers that question can determine whether or not it's a campaign.
Yeah, but to your point, we need to do some selective sampling, but I do want to warn that.
Yeah.
Could, especially at Hilton Head, where that building was built in 5 different editions, so there were, Hilton Head was built.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Spread out over a longer duration, so you could see some in some of the buildings, maybe not the later ones, but the key is take it away, let's find out. That's the beautiful thing about CM at risk. I've got a contractor that I can task,
Right.
go out there and we can make a judgment on how many samples per building, and then let's get the results back. But good input.
Surprise.
But it's managed.
Yeah. Well,
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
It is a setback.
yeah.
But it's not too pervasive, is that you're saying? So maybe 3 to 6 weeks at most?
Yeah, on the permitting side. So
Oh, the permitting.
Yeah,
What about the removal process?
the removal, I mean, the overall slowdown, I believe I was supposed to like 3 to 6. It is gonna slow that down a little bit, but like before, they had to get it done in 6 weeks. They had to. I think it's not gonna slow them down much.
And is that permit process through the removal, 3 to 6 weeks, or are we talking 3 to 6 weeks, just get the permit and then more time for?
3 to 6 weeks to do the permit, then you start the removal.
Right,
Yeah,
and the original
probably so.
duration of the abatement and that demo, we anticipate to be very similar to what the original was. It may get a little longer, but we're not expecting it to be significant.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. How long for the
The
removal?
total, well, that, we gotta wait, because we're still waiting, but we're still anticipating. The overall impact, best case, to be in that 3 to 6 week add-on. The permit, let's say the permit's 3 and the removal maybe 2 or 3, so it's somewhere in that. range. We're talking in the 1 to 2 month range. We're not expecting it right now to be much longer than that. If it is, we'll let you.
Worst case scenario, 3 months.
Additional? Yeah, I mean, we're not even expecting that, so that would be beyond. what
But
we're
yeah,
expecting
that
right
would
now.
be
Okay.
an extreme.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah.
Slide 52, St. Helena Elementary gym entry update, the new entry canopy, the concrete pad, as well as the sound system, of the gym have been completed. And late breaking news from this afternoon, right before the meeting, Robert informs me that the ribbon cutting ceremony that we're trying to coordinate is now looking at the date of November 1st. It hasn't been locked in yet, but once it does, additional information will be coming.
Okay.
ESSER updates, slide 64. The HVAC projects at Hilton Head Island, ECC, and Beaufort High are in closeout phase. The GMP proposal for the HVAC replacements here at the ESC has been received and are being evaluated. And the construction documents for the first floor HVAC replacements, those are the barge units at Beaufort High School, are scheduled to be completed this fall so that we can do a plan review and then get pricing on that, put that work under contract. The bipolar ionization projects and the bottle filler projects, that work's all been completed. We're just in the closeout phase right now, and I'll be wrapping that up. Project closeouts, we still have the one project remaining with regards to the funding from FY 2019. You remember that was Coosaw Elementary HVAC replacements. That work was finished this summer, and we're in the closeout phase for that.
What's holding up Beaufort Highs?
Beaufort High?
Yeah, and if Beaufort High, yellow light.
Oh, you're looking at the referendum, yeah. I haven't got-
Oh, okay,
I'm still in the 8%. I had one other update for the FY 2020. There's 8 projects. What you're looking at, Colonel Guyer, slide 69 to 71. There's 30 closeouts that have been completed to date. And as a cross reference, if you look at the financial monthly report, there's 136 items identified that have been completed to date. And that was attachment 3 in the materials that we distributed tonight. To answer your question about Beaufort High School, we've had a lot of different phases, and Thompson Turner's pulling all of those closeouts together, and we're taking them across the finish line, hopefully as a package. But if they have one piece sooner than the other, we'll close that out. I will mention briefly about the closeout section. We had good conversation at the clock meeting earlier this month about that section of our report. And we're going to be moving forward with a little bit of a different change. What we've been reporting to date is those that have reached the closeout phase, and what we're going to be replacing it is those that have already been completed will disappear off of it because they're old news. What we're going to do is show every project so that we can put an update of where they are and a target for completing that. And then once we at completion, we'll take it off, and then you see that list come on down, and that's what we'll be shooting for. Don't be surprised if you see some of that new format in next month's materials. We are working on that. Moving right along, financial updates. Yes, sir.
In terms of a couple of these projects, what is the process of how determining what lights these projects get?
What was your question?
And determining of these lights, what is, whether it's a green light, yellow light, orange light, what is that process?
The process has been consistent since implementing the traffic lights. Green means things are on schedule, on budget. We don't have any concerns to share. If we anticipate a potential schedule or budget concern, we put a yellow light on it. That's why we yellow lighted the Robert Small project for tonight's meeting, because we've identified a activity that will have some schedule and cost implications. So we put it onto a yellow just to share information, and it aids everybody in doing a quicker review that want to see where the issues are. And then once we have a solution for that, we'll share that solution, and then we can change it back to a green light because we now have a new plan to move forward with. And we have yet to put a red light on. The whole goal of the yellow light is so that we never have to use a red light. Red light means the sky's falling and it's not good. And we have avoided that to date. And that's our goal going forward still.
In terms of Beaufort High School, I've been told that Beaufort High School have brand new air conditioning units that are now working there, moving kids to different places because the classrooms have had ACs that are not working. So that should definitely, is this report telling us that today?
I am not reporting any HVAC outages. We do talk about the HVAC work orders in our weekly staff meetings on Tuesday, but unless I knew specifically where those rooms may be located, they could be on the first floor, which is in the next package that we're wrapping up the construction documents on, so that we can come down, because the second floor barge units were basically all replaced this past summer. And our goal is to get down onto the first floor and replace those barge units next.
I respect everything you said, but that still didn't answer my question, because the fact is either this report reflects that it's there, that is those things are happening, or you just report does not reflect it. And go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, what I'd say there, as far as there are a few issues I'm aware of with that are communication issues. So that kind of when I say communication issues, what that means is that there is something about the system not talking to the unit properly, and so it's not working what you're saying. So those are closeout items. So those are issues that we're still working through to finalize. And as we reported earlier, we haven't closed those projects out. So they're not done. So they're still working. Units were all installed on time. Units were all working.
They all started up.
Yeah, there are issues still. And as those issues come up, we're working through those, and we won't close that project out until all those issues have been addressed. And to your point, I do know there are a couple of units out there that do have the issues that have not been completely, we haven't worked all the way through that and gotten completely working without an issue. And my understanding is we have a computer management system that manages our buildings. And it's that system talking to those units that's the issue as far, it programs when they start, what temperature they are. It gets down in the weeds of how those things operate. And there's some issue there with the talking back and forth between those two units. And that's the issue.
And that control system Robert's talking about can also send us messages when a unit fails so that we can make a prompt response to those, problem areas.
It's a top priority. I can tell you, we want to get those fixed. It has not happened. Continue to keep that, get those issues taken care of.
Well, yeah, I just, when I told him, I said, no, that's not, that's not it because, Buford's Green, we're moving on. And so that's why I had to understand and process this, the lights and what every light mean and due to adding on to these projects where we were, so that, when I read something like that, I'm thinking no, and then I found out from people from the building that yes, that that there was some truth to it. I just think that I would like to hear that and hear it as well in the report so that we can know that it was properly installed, but there's still some kinks that we're knocking out along the way due to, so that it's clear cut that we're being transparent and then also that we know around the table that what is going on too, as well. So I'm not gonna, I believe that we all understand where we are on that. So I'll leave that.
Yeah. I mean, it's so the bulk of the work was completed on schedule, on time, and we're moving forward. But especially with air conditioning units, there are issues, and when air conditioning units have issues, that's a big impact on a lot of people.
Right.
But it was installed and it is set up so we wouldn't give it a change in the light color as far, but what you are hearing is we've not closed those projects out. And that is why we haven't closed those projects out. One of the reasons is we haven't finished all the issues that are out there, and there are still issues out there.
Okay. Also another question. Everything. Also another question is about Robert Smalls. I see that y'all have changed the lights here. Is that because of the leakage of the beginning of the year?
No. So it's about, as you heard, we discussed earlier, we discovered asbestos in the demo. That has required us to go out for another permit. So it's changed its schedule and costs, and that's why you're seeing a light, because we now have a delay that's due to having to resubmit permits. We're also going to have some additional costs because there's additional costs in the demo of that building. And once we get those, then that's the whole use of that light system. We're letting you know that we've had a schedule and a cost impact. And as soon as we get those finalized, we'll let you know what those are.
Okay, so in the beginning of the year, or in the beginning, the new school, there was some leakage. Does that refer anywhere in any of these reports?
No, because that's more, again, a punch list item. That's stuff that needs to be corrected, that we're still working through, and we will not close out the project until all those issues are worked through. It's kind of similar to Beaufort High. Those are items that need to be resolved, but
And I believe that in the materials tonight, we'll make reference was made that J.E. Dunn is working on correcting of the punch list items and various activities. And to me, it's definitely important to, there's validity in that information being out or being in this information, being in these packs and having it in black and white. Just because from various to say that, if you took another job tomorrow, and Robert was on leave or something, and we're moving on, and someone did not know of that. But if it's in the writing, and someone can go back and refer to it, or see that didn't happen, or it was
an issue at one point in time. That, you know, that's, it was in black and white, and it's been in the meeting, and it's, no one said that it's not true, and that's a true statement, then we have some teeth to go by. But
The certificate of substantial completion is prepared by the design consultant when work is deemed ready for its intended use. Those punch list items that we're talking about become an attachment to that in writing, so that to clear that when the contractor says, okay, I've finished every one of my punch list items, the team goes back and uses that written list to go down and make sure that whatever the issue was has been addressed, and that you can check it off. And then, you know, once all of that is clear, then that's part of that closeout step that makes this one step closer to making final payment.
Well, I was gonna have a suggestion, I mean, is that, when we go, once we've gotten substantial completion, especially a project like Robert Smalls. There's no reason we couldn't do a punch list, green light, red light, yellow light on if we're tracking, you know, the punch list items. Or if there's something major occurring, because there is a time limit, they think Robert Smalls, they have 90 days to complete everything.
I think that was what it was.
So any to what Rob's referring to, we have substantial completion. That means we've taken over the building, we're occupying it. For that punch list, they have to get all that done in 90 days for final completion. And we don't get the final completion until every issue is resolved, which includes any kind of leaks or anything of that nature there may be. So we could try, you know, we could give you a report, specific, and like in your case, Beaufort High, maybe we give the yellow light a punch list, because the punch list the yellow light, just because there's HVAC units that aren't operable. I mean, and we could bring that to your attention. I don't see a problem. Good. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll just do, once we move to the project's completed, we can track the
Punch list and highlight if it's an HVAC item. That's
So it's a
sure.
major-
Yeah, major, like, hey, if it's raining like crazy in an area, yeah, that's a major item.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, is the contractor on track to complete the punch list? That would be, there's so much that they're falling behind, we can report that. Okay.
I'll make a note of that. Thank you. Moving on, slide 73, our financial update. Figures once again are through the end of last month, August 31st. It is being recorded with the green traffic light. Our budget remains at $375,710,000. Paid and committed funds through the end of August were $365,861,289, representing just a little more than 97% of the overall program. Paid expenditures total $263,468,597, representing just over 70% of the referendum program. Remaining available funds, including contingency at the end of the month, were just under 10 million at 9.8 million in change, representing 2.62%. Contingency activity in August included the return of almost $350,000 of savings and use of just over $1.9 million. The contingency that remained at the end of August totaled $2,339,075. I will share that analysis of the remaining available referendum funds and that remaining scope that needs to be put under contract is still forecasting a soft landing. And soft landing, once again, is where once we're finished with everything and we've closed it all out and brought back all the last bits of the savings that are returned at the end of a project, that will have a fund balance that's positive. So that's the soft landing. Moving on to community outreach, slides 80 to 81. The Hilton Head Island Middle School ribbon cutting ceremony is scheduled for October 4th at 1 p.m. There's an update that broke earlier today for St. Helen Elementary gym's ribbon cutting. It's now being rescheduled to hopefully take place on November 1st. But once we get that confirmed, additional details can be shared. And I did include an update for the remaining 2023 bond referendum community information sessions. There's been a few of those that have been held to date. They've been well received and well attended. We do have one this Thursday at Bluffton High School on September 28th at 6 p.m. The other remaining ones, May River High School on October 2nd at 6 p.m. Well Branch Early College High on October 5th at 6. Hilton Head Middle School on October 11th at 6 p.m. Bluffton Middle School on October 12th at 6 p.m. And then Robert Smalls Leadership Academy on October 16th at 6 p.m. For those listening in, I encourage them to attend one of these sessions. There's great information that you can learn about regarding our next bond referendum, and the vote is coming in November of this year.
Before you go on, if I can, just know those last three are gonna be in Spanish.
They're they're multilingual. Yeah, correct.
Well, why wasn't there one scheduled for Ladies On?
We did one at St. Helena and Beaufort High.
Okay, so that,
Sandwich.
We actually had a good attendance, ladies on middle school at St. Helena.
Okay.
So we asked some questions.
okay, thank you.
Trying to think, maybe on some Beaufort High.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to update is request for proposals. That's RFPs, and request for qualifications, RFQs. The RFP 23022, that's the CM services for the new pre-K-5 elementary at May River campus. Contract has been awarded to Thompson Turner Construction. And then we do have one on the street, RFQ 24-003 for professional design services for renovations and modification projects. Proposals from interested design firms are due on or before 4 p.m. on October 3rd. And these are the term contracts, if you will, that we put into place so that we can use them on referendum work, 8% work, and child nutrition service work. With that, that concludes my updates for tonight. I'll open it up for questions.
Mr. Smith, you have any questions?
Not on my own. My only question is to be I'm not sure, is there a standard contract that we use when it comes to these contracts?
Like that, okay. So
Either one.
yes, the standard contract format we use is based on an AIA contract, which is the American Institute of Architects. So they have, which is pretty standard in the construction of building world, or it's one of the standards. So that is what we use for architects, for CM at risk contractors. We also use it on some of our other subcontractors like roofing contractors.
Here, used it on.
They're based on the AIA.
But those standard out of the can,
We modify.
we modify certain sections based on the preferences of this district. Those changes, you can get a highlight report from that AIA document, so you don't have to read so many pages to figure out where these nuanced changes made. It's a little summary report.
And actually that contract format, whenever we go out for bid, we publish that to the bidders as well. So they know what the contract looks like before they bid the job.
And I just asked that because I just would like to just like to figure out where I can just look at it. I just want to just look at our basic contracts and contractors.
If you like, well, it may vary from job to job, but if you went to our website and looked at the bid proposal for any contract development, if you look on there, it's usually issued as an amendment or addendum. There will usually be a contract, so you can just pull that up and look at the contract for that job.
And if you can't find it, just let us know.
Yeah. But it is online, it should be.
This time I have.
For the full board meeting
Next week.
I think the full board needs to be informed of the Robert Smalls issue. think you also need to have an update on contingency, where we stand. with contingencies.
Mhm.
And whole construction update. Open for full board questions. I'll give it, or I'll just ask you to come up and.
Talk about the Robert Smalls and where we are with the contingency and
then
open it up.
Whatever questions the full board.
Perfect. I'll be prepared for that. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Carlton has a question.
Oh, who?
Carlton down.
Carlton, come on. What's up?
yes, sir. At the appropriate time for non-committee members to ask a question, I'd like to do so, sir.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so read the Robert Smalls report. And is there an additional or earlier checkpoint where demolition will be required so that we learn that there might be asbestos earlier and it doesn't really require the extension? It might be good to, if that's part of the planning to remediate and prevent reoccurrences, that might be good to have for the full board also. Excuse me, so that they know that you've already arrived at a solution to prevent future occurrences.
We discussed that, you might not have been online yet, but we discussed how we're going to be looking at the Ladies Island Middle School and Hilton Head High School to do some sampling. This asbestos was found between the exterior wall and interior wall. And the only way you find it is to do a bore sample in the walls. And as we learned earlier, that Hilton Head High School was built in phases. And so they were parts were built on different years. So they're going to have more samples taken. Ladies Island Middle School was probably built at one time, so might have to be able to get away with making fewer samples. But that's going to be really necessary to help us do the project total cost for tearing down both of those schools.
I mean,
Excellent.
if I can add, so we do, through a HERA, we're required to inspect our buildings on a regular basis, but that's not destructive. So what they may take small samples, but destructive testing, we actually have to tear off a piece of the wall. And that's how we found out about this. So we did not go to that extent, and in preparing, we were aware of a lot of the asbestos in the building itself prior, and we had it all inspected and looked into prior, but like I said, we did not do a destructive sample of actually tearing a hole in the wall and then taking that sample. So that's kind of where that's the problem that occurred here. And it will be the problem at Hilton Head, but we need to look at where so we actually have to cut a hole in the brick, take it out, and what you'll have patched back would be concrete, obvious hole in the exterior wall. So we need to look at Hilton Head High School and see if we can find some strategic places to do that. Same thing with Ladies Island Middle, where it's not very obvious, where maybe it can be covered up. So we will definitely investigate that.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You probably check with D-Head also.
Yeah.
For Hilton Head, because I remember when I was working with D-Head, we did suspect Hilton Head. We didn't find any asbestos at all. So
Okay.
yeah, check and see.
Yeah, historical knowledge to see if there's any historical records of things. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Very good.
we can move on to maintenance and custodial monthly update.
Yes, so I will be giving, and I'll be giving the custodial update. Randy is online and able to answer any questions, but I will do my best of giving the quality report that Randy usually does. So first off, just note in August, we started back our inspections because we were not doing inspections during the summer months. And as you note there on the custodial side, you'll see the number of total spot inspections in the score. You'll also see, I'm not going to go through all the information, just kind of hit on some of the highlights. You see our best and worst score that was noted there through our inspections. Then we'll also note down there the number of inspections completed by ATS, their average score and their high and low scores. On to page, do you have any questions on them? Page 2, you see the staffing percentages, and note that we, according to our plan, requiring all locations to have higher than a 70% as part of the correction action plan. Every location is to be more than 70% staff. You see there the staffing numbers for each individual school and the staffing percentage for each individual school. You'll note that everybody is higher than a 70, but you have Buford Middle School at 71 and May River right at 70. Also, Well Branch Early College High School at 78. So those are right on that cusp of being being low enough for us to denote a deficiency.
How about these, on the first page, was it where it says that Buford Middle School, Belton High School tied at 60% score?
So those are what we talked about. Those are the lowest scoring inspections that occurred. They had score, and then whenever there's a score less than 80, that means they're re-inspected the next week.
Okay.
And so if you go on to page 3. Yes,
Mr. Mr. Chair, I'd like to just ask a real brief question, if I may.
Certainly, go ahead, Carlton.
Okay, on the inspections prior to the staffing ones, there were 18 out of 41 schools that were below 80. Is that sort of like a normal percentage, or is that kind of, sort of aberration?
So this is our first time, this is our first year doing these. I will say that 18 was a concern.
Okay.
I would not note that as something we want to see. That is a concerning number, and that's a high number for us to have to go back and re-inspect. So.
Okay.
Go on to page 3. Some of the things that we're recognizing as success. One of the things, and we do have Ed Pullen, who's here, who is the manager. And so if you have any questions for him, I may want to talk about real quick your temporary staffing agency that you're using at all.
It's easier for them to come up.
Okay, do you want to come up here real quick? And Ed is also here to answer, you'd asked him to be here to answer questions, I believe, about the Well Branch.
Yeah.
You talking about the staffing?
Yes.
Yes, so in a school where we may have the percentages. If we miss 1 4-hour shift, it may change our percentage quite often, but we'll take like the other 4-hour person, and they'll more than likely willing to work an 8-hour shift to cover. But I wanted to denote our position vacancies versus what's actually covered and what's not. So the original person would be working typically a 4-hour shift, so their replacement would be working the next person would be working a 4-hour shift. So, like for instance, Well Branch Middle School, there's, we got 6 positions, we got 5 people in place, and most of them are part-time. So just little bits, people cover an extra 2 hours for their shift will cover the route that's assigned. So that's why we have it set at a 70%, because then it gets to the point where it's just about, it almost makes it impossible to cover without extra. Now, we did hire a subcontractor to assist with filling vacancies. HCS will be paying the subcontractor directly for labor. Right now, we're experimenting with it south of the Broad in the Bluffton and Hilton Head markets. We just started last week to try to work north of the Broad to fulfill the rest of them. It was easier to test south of the Broad because of the wage rate structure, and there's a lot, there seemed to be a little bit more, we were having the biggest difficulty filling those spots. So that's why we tried it in the Bluffton and Hilton at March 1st.
Thank you for the explanation.
Just note on there, one that currently or at the time of this report, Hilton Head is fully staffed. And then we did have inspection reports where all inspections at Red Cedar were higher than 80%. And that ends the custodial report. So before we go on to maintenance, we'll open up to any questions, and Ed is here, of course, to answer any questions you may have as well.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir.
One of my questions is also, and the understanding that if they don't have those spots filled, we have a contract with this company. How is that money divvied? Because I don't see us paying them for those spots if they don't have those workers. Because it's almost like grass. We pay for schools to come and mow and cut certain areas at certain times, but if those areas are not cut, then I can't pay for it. But yeah, make it more simple. If I pay you to cut my grass at my house 3 times a month and you only cut 2, then I'm only gonna pay you 3 times. So how does that work?
So I think what Ed was trying to say, and I'll try to answer it, and if you want to jump in. So they're basic, let's just say someone is absent that day, so they're down a worker. What they will typically do is use other workers and offer them overtime, or extra hours if they're not have enough hours yet to do overtime. They will get their other workers to work extra to make up that gap.
Right.
And so what they're talking about right now by this temporary agency is where that's not working. They will use a staffing agency, not temporary agency, to bring in some of their employees to fulfill voids where we have.
Right, and I heard all that, and I understand that. Greatly, thank you for explaining that to me. But I know that's not what's happening, and so when that does not happen, what is our honest system to say, okay, I didn't have 2 workers to actually, I didn't have another worker to work the actual full 8 hours. What are we doing with those finances, with that money?
Well, I'm not, okay, let me say this. They're contracted to ensure that they're meeting those staffing positions everywhere at all times. Do you want to handle that question or?
Yeah, the biggest thing, we keep a lot of part-timers for the flexibility to fill the vacancies, so that even if, like, our worst one was May River High School, 70%. And it was basically like 4 shortages. Well, the people during the day were actually working double shifts to cover those. So we were actually paying on average 600 hours of overtime to make sure all the vacancies were covered. We were pulling people from other areas, other schools to fill vacancies, to make sure that there wasn't a room that was not addressed. So we were making sure that there was flexibility in our schedule to allow for that, because people do have that they get sick, they get in car accidents, I had actually one of my managers got cancer and he's out for months, right? So we've been filling that with other managers from within the country to come and assist and fill in his role. So the account has to be set up for flexibility so that when these things happen, we can, hey, I got a floater here and I got a floater here. We have extra people on staff at other schools for emergencies like that. Like if I have a school, say the high school, Bluffton High School, for instance, our scheduled hours are 60, but every week I run 64. I have four extra hours there just in case something happens. So when we get it, the hours discussion is difficult because, on a consistent basis, I run 4 hours more at that school every day just for an emergency. Just kind of a backup, because I know something may happen and somebody's going to call out. And when you got clusters like the Whale Branch, 3 schools are pretty close, including JJ Davis. We got people who can move from site to site, or Bluffton, you got the Bluffton cluster, you got people that move from school to school. Like I got my day porter at the high school. He works his 8. And then at night, he goes to fill 2 hours at HE Cracking. Just to help out. And he gets 2 hours overtime every day for a week. So that actually cost us more to have the vacancies. To fill people that aren't there because of the overtime. But we are trying to stay, we try to overstay our schools just a little bit every now and then in different locations because of that flex. It does happen. There's always going to be shortages. People call out, people just don't come to work, and we have to be prepared for that. I have been running a floor scrubber for the last 3 weeks at the high school,
Yeah.
just to make sure that the areas are covered. And things of that nature. If I gotta go clean the locker room, my manager is responsible for doing that as well. If it comes down to the nitty gritty, then we call other managers to come help. So we have to stay flexible and we have to stay. We're always planning, always running background checks on people so that we can get them cleared and run.
Also, I heard what you're saying, but Mr. I hope that you understand my question. I mean, I've heard his answer. I'm in the middle of whether that's acceptable or not, but I mean, I do understand. I do understand where he's coming from. Listening to what his response is. Also, in terms of, for instance, I'll add the last holiday that we have. Well, not the holiday for the storm. How does that work in terms of paying people in terms of being out for a storm? With the contract.
The last storm.
Yeah, like I kind of. Right, well, right.
So I don't understand, what do we do for?
Are we paying contractors for days so like we were out of school
We
for like
ask for money back during a storm, we do not. I can tell you that. So like, let's just say there's a hurricane, because a lot of time, let's just say a hurricane.
right.
And it, like, the last one didn't happen.
Right.
But let's say it does happen. It's kind of twofold. If we're closed for a week due to a hurricane. I have not in the past asked for, let's just say, a week's reimbursement. I'll also say that when we do have a hurricane, and as soon as we can get in the buildings and start cleaning them, we do. And we've had, they're out there with wetbacks soaking up water as much as they can. Under Matthew, we had, that's the most recent example, wanted to happen again. But we have, they're in there with wetbacks, getting the water off the floors, getting them clean as soon as they can so we can get kids back in the building. So it's everyone that we can on deck to get everything fixed, to get back in that building as fast as possible. I can tell you, it's a mad rush. They haven't, or whoever was in that didn't charge us extra for getting things back, and we don't ask for money when we're not there.
Well, but the issue I've had several employees several committee members have asked me, committee members have asked me, well, hey, Mr. Smith, y'all we're taxpaying people, y'all pay HES and the Beaufort County School District staff got paid when we were out those days. HES didn't pay us. So the question becomes, did y'all pay HES to pay us for those days? And if not, why didn't y'all pay HES when y'all paid y'all staff members? So that's a that's a answer that I need to give them back, because if HES didn't pay them for those days, then where's that money going, and how does that work?
So the way that's a good point. I think in the last hurricane, when we had that threat. Two days. Yeah, 2 days. That short, they checked 2 days. So I don't know, in that, so we do not have a system set up, and we haven't asked for any kind of refund or anything back during those 2 days. I don't know, were you out? And I know when we close a building, we tell them they're not allowed in the building. And so that's, I'll just say that right now.
We had some people go, once we got the all clear, I had some crews go into the buildings and work so they could get paid. We did give them options if they wanted to use some of their vacation time. But then when the school district gets to a certain level, if we have too many hurricane days, then we get days added on to the end of our calendar on the road. Or the offset days, the pickup days, they're not e-learning days. So those are, we take those into account as well, but. We give the employees the option, do you want to go back to work today? As soon as we get the all clear, you can go in and start working. Most of the part-time staff, we typically don't bring in, it's our full-time staff that are key folks in the buildings that we bring in. To help, to start, make sure the building's okay, go check, because we go in places, we'll find. We do rely on our key folks to go try to, hey, if you got a project, we'll get it done. We did put people in, as soon as we did, we gave them the option. You want to go in, give you the call, as soon as we get the all clear, some chose to, some chose not.
Well, these are key people who have asked me these questions. And once again, 2 days of your check being missing is very problematic. And in terms of not being paid, that's something that like one person said to me, we are taxpayers and y'all are giving those contractors those an option. And I do know that we do have some stability in terms of what our contractors are doing in terms of how they're paying your workers and those do's and don'ts. And so I do that we do have some labor in there. How that part works out, I'm not sure. But as I tell you, being approached by several different people with that question and speaking to the same thing is definitely is important enough to really bring up in this meeting. And that moving forward, I'm not sure how we move out if the involvement need to HR or whoever.
It's not an HR issue.
I have some questions.
Because it's a contract.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr.
So my questions are, I've got to be missing something. Sure, I need some clarification. Are we paying for a service or are we paying for bodies on the job?
For a service.
You're paying for the service, but the service does indicate bodies on the job. Well, what we call it, now the difference is it's, FTE's full-time equivalents. So it's the number of hours of people at each school by bodies. Now they can use the same person at one building and the other. We don't say that's not allowed. Or we say, let's just say maybe that half a person here for one shift and half a person here, that could be fulfilled by the same person. That makes sense.
Yeah, I get that.
So the number of hours is in the contract per building.
Okay, and it's up to the contractor to decide how those hours are distributed with their employees.
Yes.
Okay, so is it the purview of this committee to get into the weeds of how the contractor does business?
Actually, I'll do that. Actually,
I'm not asking you, I'm asking him. I'd like him to.
Well, I believe it's the district's responsibility to manage it, and we're reporting to this committee on how we're manage them, and I would say it is your purview to state any concerns in how we're managed.
That's what I want to know. Like, should we be getting into the weeds on how our contractors are doing business? That's what I wanted to know.
Well,
it's not the weeds.
Well, wait a minute. Wait, stop. We have a contract. The contract is signed. We agreed as the contractor, contractee on what they're expected to do with their employees.
Sure.
And that's it. They are the ones responsible to handle in the weeds, as you say. That's why we're doing this under contract. If an employee has a problem, unfortunately, they can't come to us. They have to go to him.
Well, for what they did, but also, once again, these same employees are also taxpayers. So once again, so if you reverse it, if you have my constituents who are working for a company that we're taking their tax out and we're paying them, and they have some concerns, then they bring it to me, and that's my job. Regardless of how y'all feel, it's my job to come and bring it up, wherever this may be the correct, appropriate platform for it or not. Then I'm gonna bring up why I see fit. I saw fit for it today because it wasn't brought to by one person. It was brought by several employees that said, "Here, look here," and then they brought the exact analogy. Listen, I'm a taxpayer. Y'all chose as a district to outsource that. You owe us. As because once again, this is how we have that referendum going on. If we want that approved, then you owe us the same way you want that approved, the same way how you outsource things right. If this company not treating us right, then as a board member, then you owe me that right to make sure that we're going to get treated fair and subjectively. So it's not we're trying to tell them. I'm trying to understand, making sure that they're doing the money what we said that they told us in the contract that they're going to do with that money.
Like I said, I'm surely missing something. I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, but the way you said it was more of in terms of are we getting the weeds? Yeah, you know, it comes across are we getting the weeds, but to me, it really comes down to I closed out with saying this. I said, Mr. Arden, I'm not sure exactly how we handle that or how that being worked out, but maybe we need to look into that. That's why I left it. I didn't go any further. But then when you came with what you came with, that was a little across to me that came across a little aggressively across the line saying, hey, he's in the weeds. If you're gonna say I'm in the weeds, then give me some teeth to show me that I'm in the weeds. Because I specifically said that I brought concerns from my constituents who live in this district and who pay taxes in this district, that the tax money goes toward those contracts. So that's what my issue comes in. I'm done with it. Thank you.
If I can, so I heard, I'm gonna have some conversations about the hurricane because it's not in our current contract, right? I heard you. We will have conversation with HES about how to deal with those situations.
Let me ask a question. You said you have part-time folks. What is the problem with full-time? You cannot find enough people?
We have a lot of people who have full-time jobs during the day
Uh-huh.
and they don't want to work 16 hours, so they end up working like 4 or 5. I will offer any candidate that comes, we try to offer them full-time.
Okay.
We try every single one. Well, I work during the day. I only want to work a couple hours. We have some folks that are on benefits, government benefits, and they can only earn so much money. I can think of one in particular over at Buford Elementary School. She called me and she said, hey, I am making too much money and they're taking too much money out of my check. And she's like, I have to quit. And I was like, whoa. I said, don't quit. What can we do to reduce? We'll reduce your hours so we can keep, because I just like her. She's a fantastic person. She's a firecracker and I really like talking with her. Good time. But it was we try full time because I want, because the full timer gets all the bells and whistles, right? And I want that for everybody. We get to the point where a lot of our employees have a second job. And this is their secondary job, especially at night. Our day folks, this is a lot of their primary jobs, and they may go to a second job down the road. We have a lot of employees that are in that realm. I just hired a lady over at Bluffton, at H.E. McCracken, and she tried to work 9 to 5:30, and she just couldn't do it. She's like, I have to be here, and I can't make it. So. And that's my primary job at night. I will work for you up to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I got to get on the road because I guess it's in I guess 30-40 minutes away. She goes for a job closer to her house. So she's a very good cleaner. We'll work with them. You know, we try to work with our folks as much as we can to meet their schedules. If they call out with childcare issues or other health issues, we try to accommodate as best we can. We're not, we're not, no, you have to come to work. Say, understand, take care of your stuff and let us know when it's good. And then we try to find workarounds. We try to find other people to do cover those shifts. I have to get somebody from Okeechobee to go to Mirror River High School to cover a night because, lady, the lady there, her knee hurts. Oh, and she wants to take a day off for, let her knee rest. Absolutely. Hey, go get off your feet, let her, relax, let me know if it feels better tomorrow, give me a call. And, I'll get it covered with Sandra. She's gonna come over there and cover it for me. We try to make that happen. And if I can't get it covered, then I'll be doing it myself. I have no problem going in there and, or my managers have no problems getting their hands dirty. It's what we have to do.
Okay, any other questions? Before we move on?
All right, that's the end of custodial. We'll go on to maintenance. So you'll see the first chart is work orders to date. And this is through August, which would be the second month. Thank you, Ed. Be the second month, and just note something that kind of jumps out at you. We have typically about a little over 20,000 work orders a year. And you'll see in the first 2 months, we've already had 5,395. So about a fourth of our work order number, which isn't surprising because there's always a big influx of work orders at the beginning of the year. Teachers come back, they notice things, they put things down, and it quite honestly takes us a month or two to work our way through those to get back to a normal state. So there you see some the figures of overall work orders. Next category is just August work orders. So still a pretty high number of 3,719 for a month. And then we'll keep, and then the completed work orders during that month were 2,531. So in all, you see we're a little over 1,000 work orders behind just after the month of August. The next bullet has the number of the different crafts. Like usual, you'll see HVAC is the highest with 658. General maintenance is the second highest at 300. And down the next step, you've got some more specifics about those crafts and why they're the numbers they are. You'll notice that 518 were work orders that were not preventive maintenance, which is your standard work order in August, where the month before had 135. That should show you the difference between once everybody's back and where we are. CUSA had the highest number of HVAC work orders in a month at 34. And if you go down to the next one, general maintenance, that's all about moves and how many of those were with Ladies Island L having the highest number of moves at 37, and that does take up a big number of our work order there at the beginning. Is new teachers come in, people are wanting to set things up different, but and that does take a large chunk of our maintenance time is doing those kind of work orders. There's any questions on those? There's some summer spotlight items there. You see the moving I'm going to page 5. We had the LED lights that were changed out. 300 man hours in August in just moves, which was a total of 8% of all of our work orders. The next two bullets break it down between North Abroad and South Abroad. Total work orders done. One thing to notice there is they're pretty consistent with each other. There's some differences here and there. We did add the average overall work order completion time. You see down there, North Abroad is 5.06 days, South Abroad is 4.59 days. So both groups is roughly 5 days with 9. You see North Abroad, 93% are completed within 2 weeks, 7% within a month. South Abroad, it's 94 and 6. So they're pretty consistent with each other between the two groups. Any questions on those? Go down to staffing. You see they're 89% staff with a vacancy, 6 vacancies. 3 plumbers, 1 general tech, and 2 HVACs. Now, we're gonna change staffing next month. One reason is because does not include the managers and the admin staff. We're gonna add those in. Because the actual number is 66 total. I think that's a better representation. We did this in the previous months, but I'd like to move to the total number in future months. So you see a change, that's why it's changed. This does not include the admin staff and managers, even though we list down below that we're missing one HVAC manager, that's not included in that 56. Again, recognize successes. Robert Smalls was a massive undertaking. All the stuff that was taken out of the old building and brought back in, it was 13,000 boxes. So 13. And then pruning and cleaning up of Beaufort High, which we have some pictures on the next page. Talked about the LED lights at Hilton Head ECC and the changeover in their multi-purpose room. Some few other projects, talking about the prep for Tropical Storm Ida and everything they had to do for that, because even if a hurricane doesn't come, they still take a couple days getting things ready, that, filling up diesel generator tanks, making sure all the saws are ready and, ready to go and things of that nature. So with that, I'll stop with the maintenance report and take any questions you may have.
Question, I don't see any hands up. Robert, for the meeting next week, how about you distill both of these reports? Distill them, get them down to 2 points.
Oh, just doing executive summary on top of this?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then we give it to the computer.
We kind of do that in our own heads on the topics we want to hit. We'll just pull those out and put it as a cover sheet. That
Okay.
would not be a problem.
Okay, now that'll be part of the Commission's Committee report.
Now, before we close this out, I would like to add that we did include in your package, because it was requested, the grounds scope of work. So we may want to talk about those next time, but the scope of work, you have 2 sets in there.
Yeah.
One is the non-athletic services grounds and the other is the general grounds scopes of work.
Let's add that to the agenda for the next meeting. So you can take it home with you, take a look at it, and then we can talk about it.
Good.
Let's work out. Okay. Mayfield Road property sale update.
All right, I put that on there because the closing was supposed to occur today. You'll notice, if you remember, the board approved the sale of. This was that little piece of property in front of the neighbor that had requested us put it up for sale, and they made an offer on it. We accepted that offer. It's supposed to close today. We were short one piece of paperwork, came in late, so that did not happen. Gotta get one more signature and hopefully it'll close tomorrow. And that's the update on.
Okay, future topic. Yeah.
I got one, but I just want to figure out how I want to write it. Shoot back, right question. I would have.
Okay, can we get this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So our next, on the 10th, are we going back to our regular schedules, second Tuesday?
Yeah.
At 5 o'clock?
That okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, actually, Doctor, Doctor, Rodriguez for always, will you always as well soon coming around?
We don't have any, we
Our
have.
main one is January.
January, yeah, we had finance one.
Okay, just make sure that I'm not being respectful or trying to just asking questions and kind of understand things and that so we have all these we can go.
Yeah.
Take care of knock out. So
We have one that summarizes everything for the year. That's
okay.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
See y'all later.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.